All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Jan Erickson, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune. It's a little video that I do, usually Monday through Friday, where we draw a card and we draw a rune and we see what they have to do with one another. Usually the rune informs the tarot card, which is nice. I love both divination methods, but I'm mostly partial to runes. They've probably been a more constant presence in my life than has the tarot been, but I like them both. Well, today is Monday, and I believe it is the 6th, I think, of August 2018. Yeah, it is. So if we look at numerology there, we're looking at 6 and 8 is 14, which reduces to 5. 2018 is 11, which we can either leave that and call it spiritual change within, letting higher self-informed change. Or we can do 5 and 11 is what? 16, so 7. Did I do that right? Yeah. So that's a number for magic and spirituality and balance, and conversely, the shadow side of self. So we're looking at both spirit and ego when we look at 7s. So, ooh, almost dropped a card. It's going to be really, really warm here this week. I think Wednesday and Thursday we've got triple digits in the temperatures, so that's not going to be fun. We've been picking raspberries and blackberries all weekend long. The blackberries are just gorgeous. And the raspberries, I think, are on their last legs, hopefully. We freeze them, so we use them in smoothies all year long. Fruit's expensive, you know, if you got to go buy it frozen. So whatever, you know, you can do to offset that, we like to do. And that's what we were doing this morning. We were up at the garden at 7, picking blackberries and raspberries for about 2 hours. And then it's like, well, I've got to go come and do this. So we're going to set that aside for a little bit and spend some time with all of you. So let's count 13. Let me have something to drink here. A little ice water and lemon. Let's see what we have today. We're out here again in this little space. I don't know if you can see this. Let's see, I think you can. You can see the rocks back there. This is a little pond that we have in the backyard. I like to call it my well of word. It doesn't have any water in it right now. It tends not to hold it for too long, and really it probably needs a liner, but it kind of just looks cool with the leaves down in there, and it's just a nice little place to sit. So it's kind of fun to be out here. Oh, well, we have a court card, of course, to start the week off with. It's the Queen of Pentacles. You can see that she's sitting on her throne with a large pentacle on her lap. She's holding it. She's clearly a woman of means. She's earthy. Pentacles is the earth element. She's and being the queen, you know, she's going to be settled. She's somebody who is going to be somebody that is practical and down to earth and basically settled in her life. You know, she's on the, you know, she's got everything she needs. She's ambitious, clearly, but she's also kind and generous. She seems to, you know, as she's looking toward it's tempting to say she's looking toward the wealth, but in fact, I think she's just serene, you know. She's quiet, she's generous, she's the earth mother, she's trustworthy. You see what looks both like roses above her, but one looks like an apple. But she's just surrounded. Oh, and you see a little rabbit right here. But she's surrounded by all of this abundance that the earth gives us. And so talking about all of our harvest, maybe we're all in harvest right now. But of course, true abundance is understanding, that we're actually spirit inhabiting a body for a little while, that we're not the ego that seems to always want to clash with everything. So since we have a court card, I've decided that I'm not just going to draw a rune, I'm going to draw a second card to give a little bit more information about the Queen. Maybe we can learn a little bit more about her before we move to the rune. I'm not a great fan of court cards. They can either depict an individual, so in this case an older woman, an adult woman, versus the princess or the page, or the knight, which would depict a younger person. The queen and the king are the authority figures, and or it could mean the qualities, generosity and practicality and being down to earth and all of that. So that's all nice, but what are we really talking about? So let's count 13 again and see what we have. 6, 7, 8, 13, just to see. Well, we're talking probably about abundance, because here we have the 9 of Cups, and here we have a man who's sitting in front of his his emotional security, basically. He's happy. There's a sense of completion, like I'm fulfilled. So really, we're talking emotional fulfillment, and so here we're talking about fulfillment. This, of course, is more of an emotional nature. Cups is emotions. But that's really, I think, what we're talking about here is abundance that's not just a physical wealth, okay, but that being satisfied and fulfilled emotionally. And here, she has a lot of things around her, doesn't she? A huge expression of abundance. But here, we have a man who's just sitting there, his arms crossed, and he's just happy. He's just happy in his own presence, isn't he? He doesn't need everything. I mean, although it's behind him, but that's not, that's not material possessions. That's emotional fulfillment. So you don't actually need any of this to be calm and serene, to be emotionally fulfilled and happy. So, where did my rune bag go? Oh, there it is. Behind the laptop. We've got the sun starting to beat down. I haven't heard from my husband yet what the temperature is going to be today, but I would expect it to be at least in the 80s, possibly in the 90s. Let's see if I can get one to just fall through. I like to have them fall through my fingers, and then to have just one end up in my hand. And we'll see what that is. Whoa, let's look at this. This is Inguas, or Inguas, however you want to say it. Depends on how you write it, depends on how you draw it. Here you have a diamond. Sometimes it's written with 2 X's on top of one another. That's another way to write it. Inguas is or Ingus is basically the seed, and it's also desire made manifest. Kind of appropriate for a 7-day if we're going to look at it that way. It's a good gardening rune, again, so here we're talking about abundance. It's the 22nd rune of the Elder Futhark, which is a master number. It's called the Master Builder. So basically what we're talking about is what we're going to bring into fruition, what we're going to build, what we're going to create. It's an earth element rune. It talks about fertility and successful outcome. It's about focus and centering. But basically, it's invoking inner energies for expansion. So whether you're talking about someone who is maybe going to have a baby, or there's a new pregnancy, or um, just whatever creative project you're going to bring into fruition, it's the desire within for more, or the desire within for expansion. When it's written with the two X's on top of one another, then you're looking at our genetic inheritance. So it almost looks like a DNA strand. Um, it awakens masculine fertility, and it's basically the male counterpart to Birkenau, which is basically the Earth Mother rune, and which is about birth and fertility and all of that. So Birkenau, combined with Ingwas or Ingus, brings into creation. But it releases energy suddenly. It can calm domestic difficulties. Um, and it basically promises a successful outcome. I use it in a garden bind rune that I've created, that I have hanging throughout, my different greenhouses I have, or different garden spaces I have. I've used this as part of it. I think I used Yera, and I don't know what all I used, but Urus also. Um, but it's nice. And then on the back side, I have a witch's rune. There's lots of different runes, sets of rune sets out there, but there's all the different Futharks. But there's also a set called the witch's runes, and those are different. And so there's a rune in that for harvest, and so I have that actually on the back of the bind rune, and then the bind rune on the other side. And so maybe today is about how much what we're putting out, what our desires are, and what we're willing to do to manifest them, what brings emotional fulfillment, not just material fulfillment. You know, when things are fine in our lives, then what happens? Ooh, my screen went off. I hope that didn't go black. But when things are fine in our lives, um, we tend to feel better than when they're not, right? I mean, that's just a given. The challenge is, I suppose, when things are a little dicey and we're not sure where, you know, how one thing or another that we want is going to happen, or how we're going to manifest that. Perhaps the idea is to bring everything to the center point, find our peace and our calm, and then proceed from there. Um, what just seems to come through in the cards today, both of them, is just a sense of serenity and being in the present moment. And I think that we can do anything from that standpoint when our vision and our attention is put everywhere other than the present moment, when we're thinking about too much in the future, and when we're thinking too much in the past, we let all of that influence the present moment. Well, sometimes that's appropriate to do, but more often than not, it just brings a bunch of drama into our lives that we don't need. So I think that finding that still point where we can then bring our desires into manifestation is probably what the theme of today is for everyone. So, well, that's kind of cool. I think I'm going to do that, though, is when I get a court card, let's just draw another one just to see if it can inform this, maybe, and give just a little more information than the rune's going to give us. But yeah, I think it's bringing ourselves into focus and into our center, into our spirit, and then invoking our desire from there, from that point, from that standpoint. It's basically what you do when you cast a spell. You're sending out that desire into the universe, and so you're bringing everything to that still point, and then you're casting it from there. So 7, Day of Magic. Have a lovely day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Blessed be.